Hey guys, this is Bryce with WP today, and I wanted to talk about how to vibe with a girl. Vibing is a lot about endurance, and that's where a guy is going to be like mostly failing. Vibing with a girl is not something very natural, to my opinion, especially for nerds like me, engineering, software, doing mechanical things. You have like all those equations, like A, B, C, D processes, and it's very, very logical. And all those things are not really, they are sequential, not changing topic, and vibing is definitely not a way for us to talk. But girls love that. They really express themselves by vibing mainly. If you listen to a girl, that's all they're doing. They're like many times like girl in my car, like five girls. And if you hear them speaking, it's hilarious because you feel like they have ADD. And on top of that, a lot of guys like fail to really drop statement of intent. If you hear you open a girl and you never say that you actually find her attractive and you find her desirable, like sexually attractive, the girl after a while is going to be asking herself, what this dude is talking to me. Some are going to leave because you kept everything non-sexual. So ask yourself, like, why are you even vibing with the girl from the first place? That's a good question. Some girls going to vibe with you, but you're not going to waste a lot of time. So those two components, be able to vibe forever and dropping statement of intent, super, super, super key. I think this anyway, and kind of like breaking the thread, breaking the opening, those loop, all those things are like things that I think students mostly like struggle with. I got like students, they can't even change subject in what they're talking about. They just like wire into pure sequential. Let's say if they talk about the movie, they're gonna be like, I mean, they struggle like the first to talk for a long time. Vibing, you're supposed to be able to talk forever. Like you could say in a set like 2 hours, 3 hours. We have sometimes very, very long sets. And if you're not capable of vibing for more than 4 or 5 hours, that's probably not gonna work. The girl's gonna be leaving at some point, but those students typically like struggle just be able to talk for 4 or 5 minutes. Now, the the other way is like vibing doesn't necessarily involve you to talk uh, non-stop, and that's where I'm gonna come back. So the way I think about vibing to me is it's like a sport. So let's imagine you remember like you were like on a summer camp, maybe perhaps, it's very hot, it's the summer, and you have all those kids, like you are like maybe 14, and you play like ping pong, like tennis table. And the way I think about vibing is it's like I got my paddle and I serve, and she may hit back, but it's a little bit weird at the beginning, fast, slow, but at some point where you're getting like in a nice flow state where it's like she's hitting back and forth, so it's really like more like an exchange. So you definitely reach what we call the 50-50, and you're not anymore like talking trying to open, like the 90-10. You definitely have the girl who actually started engaging, investing, and the best analogy is really like that tennis game. So you're supposed to like be able to hit the ball like regularly, and the rhythm is critical. I think it's like every girls are different. They have all their different vibration. The way they communicate, you're gonna have different time of the night where it's like very calm, very high intensity. So the way I think about really vibing is like finding out after you reach, the first like 50-50, what is the rhythm there. And once you have that and you can react to her, I don't think it does matter so much, but at least getting into this type of like cadence. And I think this is the best way that I try to explain. So it's not so much about you say something, it's more like the cadence of things that you say. So small talk is king with vibing because most of the things I say at least don't really make a lot of sense. Most girls don't even understand my freaking accent. They're very like low level type of communication, small talk. And yeah, the idea of like it's like playing an instrument. That's another good analogy, like playing some music with a girl, some kind of like drum or maybe piano. So we have like a it's got to be some kind of like flow trying to avoid like blank, but even if there is a blank, you can handle the blank, not doing anything, but there is still going to be a lot of things like from sub communication that are going to keep the flow going. And that's the first step to me. One other skill set that I developed by vibing, I found out actually a few years, like 2, 3 years ago, after I think I was like uh, talking to a girl in a club. I think I was here in San Diego, and I was definitely in state. I was in a really really good like vibing, and step number three, and I realized that I could actually saying anything in sync with the beat. And that was interesting discovery. And it was like, hilarious for me because I was just listening at like the back, like the DJ, I think it was like and I was speaking exactly with the same beat than the backstage. Like there's a DJ, a big loud bass, whatever, it's the EDM or rap, so whatever. But everything was like in sync, and I talked to the girl and I felt like my communication was so good. And at that point I realized I can actually I'm able to master like a rapper. And I could vibe with a girl and just use that what I'm doing right now, which is like dropping word at a certain rhythm. And the girl, for some reason, you can tell in her eyes, she loved that shit. And she's like, oh, this guy gets it because he's not filtering himself. If you do that, you're definitely not filtering yourself. And you can have this continuous flow that is like rhythmic. And she can vibe with me like random subject. And it's all in harmony with the music, which is epic. So to me, that's really when I excel. I know that I really can do that very regularly, and it became just like another like skill set. And what's funny is after a while, what I like to do is I tell the girl, "Did you notice actually?" I tell her what I was doing, and she's like, "Oh my god, this guy is like so good," and she knows what I'm talking about. So I think the biggest things to understand when you vibing is with a girl, it's not really what you say, is really how you say things, and that's the basic communication. So if let's say you sure like it's going to be maybe in the vibing and she may be mentioning something a little bit longer, maybe it's quieter, you're outside, maybe you're in the smoking area, and she starts saying it's still going to be vibing after an hour. She's going to say, yeah, my mom, blah blah blah, is going in a car accident, something like some random story. Um, but girl, I was in that car accident. And the picture of the car, you would have seen the car. It was just trash. All the pieces were like in the aftermath. I was just like, it was insane. I remember like if it was yesterday, and the sounds of the crash, of the metal, it was just incredible. It was so loud, the metal that got bent, and that all of a sudden it was so fast. I would always remember like the people screaming in the car. They were in shock. All those girls were all in shock. And so, what am I doing here is like basic communication. I'm still vibing with her, but I'm using like little things that are kind of like more expressive because I'm using picture, I'm using sound, I'm using feeling. So it's not like the random story was actually, I mean, this story was not even real. It actually did happen to me, to be honest. But what I did instead of like being logical about, yeah, I took the car Friday, we're with some friends, and some boring like story, the girl is not going to vibe with that. But she's definitely going to vibe with me expressing and expressing all those feelings and emotions and so on, etc. So there's a lot of like expression of playing with the world that has nothing to do with the content. And it's better if it's something that you care and you find funny on your own story, of course. But I think the most important here for guys is lowering the bar. No worry about the content, but more like trying to find this free expression using your sense. You use sense like visual. You go to a scene or you do something and you see things and you may hear sounds. Typically you're going to hear like what's the scene and you're going to have like expression. So it's very powerful in communication, but you can definitely use that in the vibing where you just mention about like breaking thread. That's the best way of getting from the guy who has like a long story and boring to the guy who always have a new story, always something new that you didn't expect. Girls love that. They don't want to be bored, and they don't want necessarily you finish the story. It doesn't really matter for them, but they get addicted to you creating some loop. We call those like little loop. So you can start, oh yeah, I was in this car accident, but I tell you later, it doesn't really matter. Everything was fine. And this is another story. And you know, like tonight, we were at the bar and the tequila, it's not like in France. By the way, I can tell you like I have so many things between you and me. We've been in Europe, but anyway, and now you're creating one, two, three different thread, and the girl, it's just like she doesn't know what you're gonna come up with, and the more the girl are so invested, they want more, and it's so addictive for them. This is something that is like key using movie, using storytelling. So all those things are really part of the vibing, because for a guy, it's not a way really how we typically talk to each other between guys, and we have to really work on that constantly. So I love that. But at the end of the day, I would just say there's a great book that I would actually recommend by Ryan Holiday. The book is I'm sure you read this one, um, and it's typically like because my students struggle with lowering like their content and they really have so much ego involved. So read Ryan Holiday, The Ego is the Enemy, and it's gonna help you really like in this field when you start talking to girls. You don't want to sound like too intelligent. And I know it's hard for us because we typically want to say something that has a meaning, that is like smart, and in when you talk to girls you don't need that, and it's actually counter like productive to do that, because you're gonna filter yourself, you're gonna want to say the right things, and you're gonna become very logical. So you know, like things that we do all day, like building things, aircraft, the next rockets, in finance, whatever, don't accept that in the club. You're going to have to start lowering talking small talk. So definitely read this book. The Ego is the Enemy. because you gotta be able to like break your ego in terms of like content. It's not going to be like how much cool content, how cool like subject you'd be talking to impress like girls. This is not anymore the same type of communication, especially because, I mean, first off, it's extremely loud. Keep things simple, small talk, change subject, and pay attention to the rhythm. Always keep that nice balance 50-50. And all right, so that's a big part here that I just dropped. So hope that makes sense. Now, I think picking your subject before and talking about the thing that you care or find funny are definitely crucial in this area. And the last things I would say is, if I say something funny in front of people or in front of a girl, they think you were funny. And if you say twice something funny back to back, now you become a funny guy. And that's a pretty much it. And that's all you need to do. So you don't need to be funny for the whole night, but you become funny by just saying funny things like that. So it's not like a big deal. And you can find things funny and manage to drop them and really laugh at it if you're going to be already like above like 99% of the guys and become funny. So now let's talk about something else, because you can vibe, sure. We all had that great chemistry with a girl where you were vibing for like, let's say, 2 hours, where you're on the rooftop. It's going super well. It's beautiful. We vibe. It's fun. But the big thing's missing here is there's no statement of intent, like putting intent on the real reason why you're vibing with this girl, why you open her from the first place, and maybe tell her that you find her attractive and eventually you'd like to have sex with her. And that side, I think it's like a big things that guys also struggle because they don't really know how to do it. And I think they also struggle. I mean, if for me, for example, I know I had a hard time with that on the verbal side. I'm very like monotask, and when I'm vibing, I'm just vibing. But doing the two together, putting statement of intent like little like rocks that you drop like in the river, is a little bit difficult to do first. So I may be in a set where I'm doing great things, but now I'm going to forget about dropping those statement of intent. So there's like a skill set definitely of being able to do the two together that are like very, very crucial. So I'm not sure if there is the best way. I know like the verbal is like important because you remind the girl like verbally, and it's you create a picture of you and her maybe being in intimacy and having sex, perhaps maybe anything that is like portraying you together, and that's going to be like putting intent. But you can also being more like me, which I don't think I developed that for many years. To be honest, I didn't really have statement of intent in my game, where I would put like more this sentence with my body language, expression, my contact, and always thinking about sex when I was near to a girl, like, and being very physical. Let's be honest. So girls usually know that there's a lot of intent behind your body language. So either way, one or the other. But nowadays, what I would probably do is pretty obnoxious. And I don't really advise you to do that because I'm just bored. But I would not be doing like little romantic little things. I'm usually going hard, fast. I don't waste too much time with the girl and myself. So I may be like, hey, have you ever had like the thought of having sex with your dad? And then she's like, oh, no, 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 no. And they always like, no, no, it's just super funny. And I'm like, It's pretty crazy what I say. And then I add like usually I'm asking, my age because I'm usually like the age of their dad. So I find this very amusing for me. And then I'm like, hey, what about your uncle? Did you have like an uncle with a mustache that you had sex with? Uh, and it's pretty intentful. But now, of course, if you do that, you have the risk of like doing too much. Like if you spike that much, the girl might just run away, and that's probably likely to happen. And that's really the worst case scenario with statement of intent. So I think when you do those statement of intent, first you gotta get them gradually. You may start with a mild, medium, and spicy. So you pick the one that you like, and you may start with like, oh, let me take a look at you. You look like very fashionable, Sarah, this evening. I love your look. It's hot. And you stare at her with like her tits from top to bottom, and just that kind of like mild, because it's something you could say to a girl. It doesn't mean anything. It could be a fashion or clothes, whatever. And she's gonna be, oh, okay, thank you. It's some kind of compliment, but they are like a little bit sexual. But then you're gonna continue with those things, and what's gonna help is screening the girl, because if the girl is still here after you throwing statement of intent, that's definitely screening the girl that are in the program or not. So very, very powerful. And let's say you're in set, and after maybe vibing an hour or two, the buying temperature maybe go down for some reason. And you want to be able to rethrow some spike, like sexual things, maybe to move things forward. So it's always like good to have. I would like maybe some of my previous mentor, like Derek, they would say like, oh, you look adorable, come over here, get your ass over here. And he would be like just playful, and that would be like the things that he would say. Maybe Jeff would be like saying like things a little bit more like sexual. It would be like, where are you from? And she would say, oh, I'm from Brazil. Oh, I thought they were all sex addict over there. And boom, blah 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 blah. And he's going to throw like those constantly in his game. And that's something that has like uh, it's like a pre-can, like you learn them and you throw them, at the right time. And they are good to have because you don't want to running out of like of them. Personally, I always want to have one under the belt. You want to be able to throw them as you wish. So I think this has been helping me recently to maintain, the interaction after a while. But I hope all this was valuable. I would say another things. One great book that you can find a lot of topic to vibe with girl would be Tucker Max. Love is Dude. In his book, I hope they serve beer in hell. Is the definition of a player that you want to become, which is like being a jerk, an asshole around a hot girl. Most of the time, he makes so much fun of them, like it's ridiculous for him. And all those hot girl, they all dumb, and they all, no matter what, they're just dumb. So I love that. So when you vibe, there's also like the expression, like the subject, the topic. I like that in mind. I think this book is great. Like when he arrived in Vegas, I remember, I think it's the first chapter with his buddy, and isn't like, I think it's like after an hour, 4 or 5 hours of crazy set already, he may have closed a girl. I don't really remember. And they are downstairs and they start like pretending they are like rock star or like on the radio, and because there's a song, and yeah, this is, we are rock star, ta ta ta. And he kept the whole thing like playing with that. and the girl are so dumb that they believe him, or maybe he's really good at doing this, and he pull them and close. But the whole conversation, I highly recommend to read this book and this author, because that's gonna give you a lot of real subject of conversation when you vibe with girl. A little bit more like playerish than your lame discussion. Always bring sex at some point. That's the recommendation. I think it's going to be a great cocktail and all that, and you're gonna get actually closing a lot more girls. So that's all I have for today. I hope you guys enjoy, and thanks for listening, and I talk to you later. Peace.